Hello, I'm Eric, and in this video, I'm going to talk about recent contributions to Pewter, working with Headstarter Accelerator, and what you can expect from Pewter Release 2.6. Just over a couple of weeks ago, at the time I'm recording this, Pewter was a project at Headstarter Accelerator. This is their website in my browser over here. What that means is developers within Headstarter Accelerator who are interested in contributing to open source projects were contributing to Pewter, and the results were very cool. By the way, since there have been a lot of contributors over the past couple of weeks, I'll probably mess up some names, so I'm sorry about that in advance. PR1123 adds the temperature and max tokens parameters for the pewter chat completion interface. So that means we can now set temperature and max tokens in AI requests. I just did a sample request with the temperature set to 2, which is the maximum, and the max token set to 100. And we can see that we do get a response, and the response is a little messed up because of the high temperature setting. And I set max tokens to 100 so that it doesn't fly off the handle and take forever to generate a very long response. So it's very nice to have these in here now. This PR was submitted by Braulio, and it was actually the first PR submitted from Headstarter contributors, so congratulations on that. Next, we have PR 1156, which was submitted by Bruce, and this adds the ability for the AI command to actually perform some commands with a confirmation from the user. Before, it was only able to read the command history and give you information about that. So we can see this in Phoenix Shell in Peter's terminal. If I type make a folder on my desktop called stuff, then it will actually uh, attempt to run this command. It'll prompt me. If I press Y, there should be a directory, yep, on my desktop called stuff now. Next we have PR1160, which was submitted by Aranab, and this is a simple but incredibly useful pull request that adds list models and list providers to Pewter AI, so you can see all the different models that you have access to without having to sift through documentation. This is especially great if you want an app where the user is able to select what model is used. Here's list models in action. So it's pewter.ai.list models. And as you can see, I get to see all of the models categorized by the name of the service in Pewter that's providing the models. I can also specify a provider. So if I pass open router as the argument to list models, I will only get the models from the open router service. PR1161 is from Andy, who noticed that the text in the sidebar in the file manager had really bad contrast depending on your color setting, specifically if it was in dark mode, and changed that so the text now inverts color as you would expect it to. So before, it didn't look very great in dark mode, and now, if I change this, we can see the change right here. You'll notice actually in the before and after screenshots, the heading isn't changing contrast. This was actually done in a subsequent pull request from Het. So now we have two contributors that know a little bit about how the color picker for personalization works. AJ took on the task of updating the documentation for what events are available to Pewter extensions and took a really good approach to, for the most part, automate this by finding all of the events in Pewter's source code. We can see here a JSON file for manual overrides, and if I scroll past that, we'll see a tool called dochelper, and this actually generates the documentation for events. And it generates that using a generator that infers the purpose of an event based on the event name, which is really cool. That means we need to be a bit more consistent with our event names, but it also means we'll be able to more easily keep on top of this documentation. Saish came on later with a bug fix. This person's not from Headstarter. They just noticed Pewter come up again on their Explore page and decided to make some contributions. So that's one thing that's really cool. Your contributions, they actually help the project in more ways than just the contribution itself. It might help us rank a bit better on pages on GitHub, And when people go onto Pewter and they see there's a lot of people making contributions, it's more exciting to work on a project that has active development from a lot of different people. Thanks to this bug fix, if I right-click a directory on a locally hosted instance of Pewter and hit publish as website, we'll see http:// instead of a hard-coded HTTPS. So it's more accurate in more situations. If I hit publish, it actually still says HTTPS, so that still needs to be fixed, but that's going to be a lot more polished soon. He also added this really nice clock. We actually since moved it from here, but it looks very much the same, I believe. If I go to personalization and set the clock to shown, we'll see it appears right here on the right side of the taskbar. I'll just zoom that in so it's easier to see. Um, there we have it, a clock. We might play with the styling of the clock a little bit and make something happen when you click on it in the future. I don't know if that will happen in 2.6, but it will happen eventually. PR1175 was added by Amon, and this addresses different icons for alerts in Pewter, which we didn't actually have yet. So now if you're using pewter.js and you're creating an alert, you have all of these different choices, which I'll show you right now. This goes through them all: info, error, warning, success, and confirm. You'll notice my second parameter to pewter.ui.alert is undefined, and that's because that's where we typically pass an array of buttons. I think maybe later we'll add a case where if this is an object, it'll be treated as options instead of buttons, but it doesn't do that right now. So we can see info, error, warning, success, and question mark for questions. Tanvir added a permission dialog, so apps can request permissions using a dialog. And this is a prerequisite for some of the things that we want to do with threads. For example, we want to make apps that will help developers configure threads for their apps. And in order to do that, they would need permission to access permissions. There isn't a permission that lets you do that yet, but once we add that, that should work. So if I scroll through here, I believe it was just request permission, and it takes a property called permission. I'm going to go ahead and try that in the UI. So it'll be pewter.auth. Is it an auth or is it elsewhere? Oh, it's actually in UI. Pewter.ui.request permission because it's a UI dialog for requesting a permission. That's the rationale there. And I'm going to say thread, fake UUID, and post, so permission to post to a thread. And we'll see that the dialog actually looks at the permission and sees if it's a prefix that it knows, like thread. And depending on that prefix, it'll show a message that's catered to that situation. So it's saying that editor is requesting permission to post to the thread with this ID. PR1182, submitted by Andrew, improves the situation when a user runs out of some amount of allotted use for AI services. Now, instead of throwing a 40 something error, we respond as the chat interface with a message stating that the usage has run out. So we can see the limit message here. A developer can also specify a custom message. So if they want their app to say something a bit different, or maybe give the user some other instructions for putting in an API key or something like that, then they can do that. I've just restarted Pewter with a hard-coded return false so that my allotment of AI service usage is always used up. So I'm going to make a call to Pewter AI chat, and we'll see I get a message right away. And the message is from the model called usage limited. This is PR1184. Pewter also works in Node version 23 now. So thank you, Arnab, for getting this out of the way for us. Now I'm going to quickly go over some open PRs that aren't merged yet. So I'm not sure if they're going to be in release 2.6, but these are things that are in the works. The initial setup wizard is being worked on by William, and this will make it easier to set up Pewter for the first time. Instead of having to edit a configuration file by hand and restart the server, Now you would be able to configure Pewter through a wizard that's launched on the first use of Pewter. So I have a manual test video here. I just full screened it so I could show you the what the user interface looks like. So this still has some bugs to work out, but once that is worked out, it might be much easier to configure new instances of Pewter. Jonathan is working on a capture system for Pewter. Now, CAPTCHAs don't sound fun or like something that you want, but you actually do want them. And the reason is right now, sometimes people can't access Pewter on certain networks, like if they're behind a VPN, for example, because that's the only way that we can prevent use on the production deployment of Pewter. So the CAPTCHA would actually allow us to make Pewter accessible for more users. So generally, that's a good thing. And you wouldn't always get it. You would get it if you're behind a VPN or something like that. You can take a look at the video of my manual test if you want to see the UI. Here's a blurry preview that I just took from my screen right now. PR1183 from Harman adds the ability to right-click search results when you're searching for a file and open them in an app of your choice. So this also has a video of me manually testing it. That is actually pretty close to completion. There's just a couple of UX issues to iron out, and once we've done that, we can merge it. So this is pretty likely to be in release 2.6, I think. A WebDAV interface for Pewter's file system is also in the works. This is being worked on by Dawit, and this will be incredibly useful because you'll be able to access Pewter's file system from anything which supports WebDAV. And one of these things is the default file manager in KDE, which I didn't know until Ellis told me about that earlier. So that's something to look forward to for sure. Now, in our discussions for the WebDAV interface to file system, we realized that this is pretty hard. So I'm not sure if this will be in release 2.6. It might take us a little while to iron this one out. Rishabh is working on a notification management sidebar together with Sri, and I think I have a manual test here where we can see what that looks like. I have to reload the page because those videos didn't load. So there are a few manual tests over here. I think this is the latest one. So this one actually demonstrates the UI and what that looks like. So I'll just make this larger so we can see it here. So that looks pretty nice. Definitely you can take a look at this manual test and you'll get a better idea of how it looks. This is, I think, coming along pretty well. There's a few more things left to iron out, and then this can be merged. So there's a possibility that this could be in release 2.6 as well. Hisham opened a PR for a option to show and hide desktop icons, which it's surprising that we don't already have that. This is just about ready to be merged, so this will probably be in 2.6 as well. And finally, we have a draft PR 1192 from Mateo, which adds, what does it add? It adds the list voices function to Pewter.js, so you can list the voices for our voice synthesis interface. This is another really simple PR, so this will probably land its way in 2.6 as well. Mateo submitted a draft PR 1192, which adds a list voices function to Pewter.js, so we can list the voices that we can use with the voice synthesis interface on Pewter. There's also an app in here that uses the voice synthesis interface. I haven't actually checked this out yet, so I definitely encourage anyone watching this video to maybe check out that app and maybe submit some feedback. And there you have it. That is what's definitely going to be in Pewter 2.6 and what could find its way in Pewter 2.6. I'd like to thank Headstarter Accelerator and all of the contributors who added value to Pewter in the past couple of weeks. This gave Pewter a really nice push forward, and it's going to make this release a particularly awesome release of Pewter. So thank you, everyone who was involved. Hello, this is post-production Eric from Video Editing Land, and I forgot to mention that a lot of the contributors have also made their own videos presenting their contributions to Pewter. So I'll put links to those in the description. That's probably below this video unless YouTube changes their user interface or and with that, I'll close this video in the usual manner. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this interesting or helpful in some way.